Disbelief in magic can force a poor soul into believing in government or business. Hello everyone, welcome to your horoscopes for the new moon in Aries, happening on March the 22nd, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me, at 4:26 a.m. And that's Australian Eastern Time, so switch your clocks out for what works for you. But welcome. If you've not been here before, my name's Uma, and I've decided to change it up. Aries season is like the initiation into a brand new trip around the zodiac. And I want to give you, first of all, an overview of the astrological weather that's happening for all of us. And then I'm going to lead you into your private readings for your rising sign. So if you're cross-watching, then you may have heard this introduction before. So please do switch it out and head down to the description box and you can press the timestamp that's in correlation with your sign. So let's begin. As I said, Aries season is the freshness of a new cycle. I am so excited for this time of year because I really think that it's going to give us a wave of optimism that maybe we've been struggling to find in the recent past. I think that the kind of coagulation of the first bit of astrology at the start of the year is really easing, and we get to come into this new fresh space and be Aries. Aries to me is direction. Aries to me is a sense of autonomy and a sense of courage. I think to be the instigator of something, to start something off, takes courage, and it really takes you being comfortable in your own skin. That's what Aries wants for themselves, and that's what Aries wants for all of us. In the tarot, Aries can be represented in the major secrets by the Emperor. Now, to look at this card and to have a mind of wanting to bust down the oppressive structures that keep a lot of us bound up, to rally against the machines that would have us in bondage. The Emperor can be a bit of a tricky customer to look at. Things like hierarchy and patriarchy and top tier down stuff can kind of come up. But the tarot reminds us that we have every one of the major secrets in us. The archetype of the Emperor resides within us. That absolute autonomy, conviction, confidence to be oneself really can be found if you dig deep enough. Now, if you've got Aries placements, then of course you kind of know that in a natural, maybe even subconscious kind of way. For some of us others, it can be a little bit more hard to come by, but that's what the tarot's for. Now, this lunation is happening at a very critical point of the zodiac. 0 degrees of Aries is the first degree of 360 points around the universe. And this new moon is happening at exactitude at 0 degrees of Aries. So it kind of feels almost like a birthing. It's critical time. I've said it before, Aries really reminds me of the one with the matchbook and the first match ready to strike, to begin. The tarot card that represents 0 degrees of Aries is the 2 of Wands. Now, I don't know if you're following my full trip over on my website, but I have been painting the tarot slowly, but surely. I'm actually using this new moon to reactivate that project. In my drawings, I've based the 2 of Wands off Sissy Hankshaw. She's a character in a brilliant novel called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues by Tom Robbins. It was written in 1976, I think, or 79. Sissy is a world-famous hitchhiker. She was born with thumbs 4 times the size of the regular. And so when she was younger, her mum was really worried about her, and she was telling her doctors to find a young boy with ugly fingers and hook them up so she wouldn't be alone, she wouldn't be a spinster. But Sissy knew better. Since she was young, she felt that her thumbs were some kind of magical tool. The Two of Wands is two magic rods. Sissy, I reckon her thumbs are those magic rods. There's a portal that opens in the Two of Wands. There's a gateway. Wands are magical tools. And in some drawings of the card, the figure holds the world in the palm of their hand, and they're ready to go. They know where they're going. They know it's going to be an adventure, and they're champing at the bit to get that done. There's a passage in the book that I wanted to read to you. I'm going to try a little southern accent. Humour me, or don't. Sissy's thumbs talk back to her in thumb talk. Tingles, throbs and itches, until at last she knew, accepted what she'd always sensed. They were an invitation, a privilege audaciously and impolitely granted, perfumed with danger and surprise, offering her greater freedom of movement, inviting her to live life at some other level, if she dared. Now, I think that there's a lot in there for all of us. We have power over our destiny, as much as sometimes it feels like we don't. Aries reminds us that. Aries can sometimes get a bit frustrated with us that we don't recognize that in ourselves. Aries' sole purpose is to come forward, and from the plane of mind, they rule. It's almost as if they've been to the greater collective, and they've just been birthed into this incarnation, and all of their enthusiasm for connectivity can sometimes be frustrating for them, because they think to themselves, well, this is what I see. This is how I want to do it. This is what you should do. You can do this. Why aren't you doing it? There's a glut of planets that are in Aries right now. So it's not just this lunation at 0 degrees. There's also Mercury, which in the esoteric philosophy is the ruler of Aries. That's the brain access, the cerebral access to the spiritual. We want to build that rainbow bridge with that connection. There's also Chiron and Jupiter and the asteroid Vesta, and they've all just come into synchronicity over these last weeks. So I wonder if you can think back to the 13th of this month and pinpoint a moment of either reclamation or of deep healing. I had a really beautiful conversation with a dear friend of mine, Max. We were sitting in a park after a weekend away together. And through that conversation, Max gently but firmly reminded me of my life's work. I've done a lot of stuff in this life. I've been everywhere, man, and for the majority of my time spent in creative practice or in creating space, I was doing it from an unconscious soul level. I was doing it to connect the dots, connect the points, bring us all together. And I'd forgotten that for a time. I had maybe been self-deprecating, or I had maybe struck that match and burnt too much away. Max reminded me of the past and the present being on the same plane, coming together, that time that does this, We don't need to throw it all away. We don't need to live in the past. Aries doesn't want to live in the past. But we get to bring the best of us forward. We get to bring the best of our experiences, of our love, of our passion, of our magic into the future with us. And so I'm going to be really forever grateful for Max on the 13th. That conversation changed me, and hopefully it kind of improved my sense of humor as well about the whole thing. There's a glamour that I've been so attracted to, which is probably why I'm attracted to Tom Robbins' work, and to Sissy. Now, we're going to switch tracks and we're going to look at Aquarius. So this moon is happening, as I said, on the 22nd of March. The day after, on the 23rd of March, Pluto makes its ingress into Aquarius. Now, we've been waiting for this. Languages like power to the people. Remember all that cat power imagery that I've been ramming down your throat lately? If Capricorn represents hierarchy, which it does in some way, there's the mountain goat and the sea goat. In the ancient world, dolphins were considered sea goats. And so the essence of Capricorn is based on that principle of mountain goat at the top, sea goat at the bottom. And so Pluto, the planet of destruction and of disintegration, of removal, has been lingering at the final degree of Capricorn. And we can feel it in the world already, can't we? We can feel all of those hairline fractures, these systems of oppression, this fight back from fascist voices, from voices that wish to keep the language as it were, that wish to keep things stuck in the old days. It's all going away. And so Pluto is entering the day after this moon into the Aquarius, the sign of the people. 2 days after Pluto moves into Aquarius, Mars finally leaves Gemini and enters Cancer. And so all of my Gemini babes, particularly my Gemini moons, I might say, brethren, you and me, babe, there's going to be a release. There's going to be a culmination, perhaps, of some of this toing and froing, this kind of fight of the mind. I don't know if you've been waking up lately and have been already mid-conversation with yourself, or somebody else in there is having a chat and letting you know what they think of it. It's exhausting, but we can look forward to that movement. Mars leaving Gemini into the sign of Cancer. And so Cancer, I can almost feel this, the cardinal water, the nurturer of the zodiac. I can feel that kind of heat of Mars just going, hold up, hold up, hold up. Mama's pulling rank. Okay, so that's the collective astrology. Hand in hand, we're going to do this together. We're going to step into this new way of being. We're going to birth this new world together. We're going to take all of the beauty, all of that cream from our past selves and bring it, mix it into our future selves. We're going to stand here and be Aries and say, I am. If Aries says 2 words, it's I am. There's no arguing with that. Hello Libra. So I really want to focus in on this 1st house, 7th house situation with Ceres. So Ceres, the asteroid, is at 0 degrees of Libra, right at the point of inception of this brand new lunation in Aries, in direct opposition with it. So if it's 0 degrees of Aries that the new moon is happening at, 0 degrees of Libra is where Ceres is. Ceres in the tarot, unofficially, as far as I can deduce, is the Queen of Pentacles. And I think that we maybe have spoken about Ceres before, but I'll tell you real quick the sort of genesis story. In the mythology, Ceres was the god of agriculture, so was the one that could develop systems of taking from the land, but in a way that was sort of regenerative. They could grow crops of food to eat, and they sort of taught humanity all of these principles and all these different ways of refining the natural raw materials and ingredients of the land. Ceres had a daughter called Persephone, who was kidnapped by Pluto, the god of the underworld. And Ceres left the duties of the land, of agriculture, of generation, to go into the underworld and to find Persephone, to bring her back. And Pluto struck bargain with Ceres and said, I'm going to allow you to take her back, but I get her once a year. And so in Ceres' absence, the crops went to seed and the earth stopped producing fertility, fell into winter. And so you can see there's that sort of mythology of where the genesis of winter is sort of sewn into that story of Ceres. In astrology, the Ceres placement in your chart can point to a part of your life, or can show you, describe to you how it is that you nurture, how it perhaps turned out that you were nurtured yourself. It can also maybe hint at our relationship with the darkness, with the winter of life, and how we, maybe how that sort of shows itself in seasonal kind of formation. And so as much as there's all of this activity happening in your 7th house, there's a new moon that you get to ask for new relationship structures, or you get to manifest how it is that you hope to be received by folks that you are in relationship with, that you get to reinvigorate old vows, or you get to reinvigorate commitments, or you get to reestablish some kind of sense of autonomy. If we think about Aries in the 7th house, there's that idea of sort of standing proudly in your power, in saying, this is how I relate to other folks, this is what I give, and this is what I hope to receive. You can see there's that push and pull, and it doesn't have to be so much of a difficult aspect, but there is a melancholy here, Libra, that I can feel. There's something about kind of this vow of continual search and retrieval. And that could be something that sort of stays with you for the rest of your life. And so maybe at this new moon, it's almost like kind of reaffirming, I said it before, but like reaffirming those vows, sort of saying, this is my commitment to this. You know, it's either to myself and my internal structures, or it's to this person, this relationship I understand needs, there's a sort of ritual that's developing here, and I can go and retrieve and protect them and bring them back. I just thought it was pertinent to bring that up with you before we go into the tarot, Libra, because it does, you know, it's in your 1st house if you're a Libra rising, and it's in direct opposition with the 1st degree of the zodiac. All of that lovely stuff we were talking about ignition, you know, the 2 of Wands, you know, opening the portal, seeking. I like to have all of that flavor in relationship to your relationships. I'm going to get these cards out, and we're going to have a nice languid reading together. Oh, what do you think? That one? Yeah, that will do. Yeah. There's this mode of, or not this mode, but it's a real, you know, there's a reciprocal nature, or there should be, to all relationships, shouldn't there, Libra? You know, don't tell you. You sort of wrote the rule book on how we, on right relationship, how we intermingle with others. But we like to think that when we're in need, we can ask for guidance or comfort or help from the folks that we're in relationship with, because when they need help or guidance or support, we give it to them. If we have enough, we pay it forward. When we don't have enough, we can expect that it comes back. Now, it's not tit for tat. It's not, you're not sort of, there's no checklist here, or you know, there's no, it's not so much about sort of balancing the, you know, ledgers. But if your soul mantra and your tarot card is justice, I could imagine that there's something about sort of equity that's really important for you. Simply, maybe, as I would really appreciate it if you were to see me. I see you, and I see the multiplicity of your nature. And I love and support and respect every facet of you, like the jewel that you are. And I would love for that poetry to be offered to me once in a while. It's like there was like a bolt from out of the blue. You've been handed something very magical, Libra. You've been handed this opportunity. It kind of feels like divine inspiration or something like that, you know? It's like not so much an idea, it's like one's a magic, so it's like, it's sort of like, it's a mission statement, it's sort of a, it's a passion, it's a match. There's Aries and new moon. Could be the match that you need to ensure that this Six of Pentacles is in good working order, that there is reciprocation in your intimate relationships or your business relationships, But really it's folks that stand in front of us, that we engage with directly, that you, of all people, Libra, would love to feel that reciprocation. I can recognize that that hasn't really been happening for you, or it hasn't maybe been happening for you. There was a time or a place or a person that you really felt that kind of cold, dull thud. You're like, this is actually not going to change. You can't offer me what I so deeply desire. And that's a real shame, because I really love you. I really respect you. But I understand that this trip around the wheel has come to an end. This is beautiful poetry to be happening right now at this new moon in Aries, isn't it, Libra? Because as I said, this 0 degrees starts the wheel again. It's a freshness that we can feel. And so that idea of closure, perhaps unattainable, you can attain it for yourself at this new moon. I will remind you that as difficult as this card looks like to deal with, it's painful and hurtful and tragic, the sun's coming up. I'm not sure if you can see, but in the background, in the horizon, the sun is actually coming up again. Reminds us that the cyclical nature of time occurs with or without our say-so. So as much as it's been difficult to come to terms maybe with this, it can be really disappointing. It can be really, really disappointing when you love someone very dearly and when they're just not giving you back what you so rightfully hope to receive. Things like encouragement, consideration, space, understanding. The pentacles can sometimes mean money, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't bother so much with that. It could be, there's plug holes that you need to fill up, who's bleeding you dry. That's quite mean-spirited, I think. I don't think with this series in your first house, I don't think that it's as simple as that. There's something much more emotionally resonant that I'm feeling in this. And it's hard because you can't actually, we can only change and heal ourselves, can't we? We can come into company and to friendship and be in love with folks that are committed to their own healing, but we can't do it for them just as much as we can't expect them to do it for us. But it's the soft areas of life, it's the gentle spaces that we can create in order to foster somebody else's healing, and hopefully for them to provide us with the same. But the last card I got in your reading, Libra, is Judgment. And there's nothing sinister here. There's nothing to fear. in this card, like nothing to fear in any of the tarot cards. Judgment simply means, are you going to live a life half-lived? Are you going to stay in mode, stay in position, deny yourself the beauty of respectful, reciprocal relationships? Or are you going to step out and actively receive what it is that you deserve? Are you going to take the rest of this life? None of us know how much longer we've got. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Been working through some grief of my own and staring at my belly button and thinking about the meaning of life and all it is that I feel to be true, but can't be sure. We don't know how much time we've got left. We may as well use the time that we have in spaces that feed our soul and that we feel welcome in, that we don't have to prove ourselves so much maybe. I feel there's something about, it's like a test. If you love me, that's kind of what I get here. At the end of it all, that's not what you're going to be met with when this life finally wraps up. There's not going to be a checks and balances list of, tit for tatio, this is what a good soul engages in and this is what they don't, and it's nothing like that. You're a good person, Libra, and I think that sometimes it can be difficult for Libra individuals to separate themselves from the feelings of other folks. Consistently trying to get that scale balanced, trying to make everything sort of level out, so we can all have a bit of fun, so we can all enjoy our lives, so we can receive pleasure. And the traditional ruler of your sign, Libra, is Venus. So right now, think about that too. Remember how I said that Venus is in Taurus? That's another sign that they rule. So there's an opportunity here for some simple, beautiful pleasure and nothing more. That's what your relationships, I don't have to tell you that relationships take work and I'm going to take the rough with the smooth and there's light and shade. I don't have to tell you any of that, Libra. You know that already. What I will say is that you deserve love and respect and kindness. And you deserve the vulnerable parts of you to be just as sort of received as the generous parts of you. So at this new moon in Aries, I want you to wish for kindness. I want you to enter spaces and feel that you don't have to prove nothing to anyone. I want you to feel the proverbial table and recognize that there's a space for you at that table, no matter how you're feeling. That's your reading, Libra. Let me know how you like this new format. If you're new here, head over to umaruby.com. There's a whole bunch more stuff over there. You can look at my paintings, read my writing. You can also get your birth chart read by me if you like. Tips are always welcome at buymeatopcoffee.com/umaruby. Not essential. This is always offered with love and peace and harmony. Enjoy this one, Libra. Really enjoy it. And I'll be speaking to you in 2 weeks and we'll be having a full moon in your first house, your house of the soul. So there'll be an extra opportunity to express and expel what it is that you don't need, to get it off your back, get it off your shoulders. Speak to you then. Bye. Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to your leg of the journey. Now, we're going to talk about Aries. We're going to talk about your third house, which is our village. It's the place where we enact sort of daily rhythm and where we have relationships with our neighbors and where we kind of share. It's kind of like a folk magic kind of feeling, the third house. It's like what we learn and trade with language, maybe less to do with academia. There's something quite sort of like home base, local about the third house. So maybe we could talk about the idea of your locality, your location, how you look out and go through the day. What's your environment as the days go by? However, I want to really take this opportunity to zone in on Pluto and its ingress into Aquarius. Now, it will only be for a couple of months that we feel that rush. So on the 23rd of March, the day after the new moon, Pluto will enter Aquarius officially. And this hasn't happened for 248 years. So we kind of can't be sure what's going to happen. We can look back to 248 years ago and we can recognize that the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, there was the American Revolution, there was the French Revolution. Also, the land on which I stand was brutally colonized. One of the most ancient cultures of human civilization was maimed and destroyed and held in bondage for a long time. Reparations can be made from that. And so I wonder if Pluto in Aquarius now, in this century, will provide some space, will burn a hole in the bush to allow some new growth to come up, for humanity itself to really understand the repercussions of the past and the best steps to take towards the future. How we're going to hold hands with each other for progress rather than dissension. It's hard because you can feel that sort of polarity, can't you? You know, that's this culture is, and technology is great, and you love that, Aquarius, but you can also sense it's sort of like, whoa, we've got so much access to tools of division, don't we? I would be gently sort of kind of calm about that will right itself. I think that the human spirit is a hard thing to kill, especially with a chainsaw, as Grandmama Adams would say. But for you personally, this is a transit that not everyone will experience in their lifetime. And I want to put this to you in terms that doesn't make it feel like you need to fear or worry about it, but I will put it in terms as such as I, as a Capricorn sun, have experienced a Pluto transit over my sun sign. So depending if you're watching this for your Aquarius rising or your Aquarius sun, or you might have other placements in Aquarius and that's why you're watching it. Maybe you have an Aquarius moon. But a Pluto transit does bring with it a complete disintegration and shift. On a personality level is how I experienced it. My Capricorn sun went through a complete disintegration and an extinguishing sort of feeling, complete rock bottom meltdown. Couldn't recognize myself, didn't know who I was until I remembered. And what rose from underneath was spiritual language, yes. Magical inclination, yes. But stuff that had been existing in me since the moment that I was born. I came into great conversation with the little person that I used to be, the one that perhaps was less or unaffected by the world, by experience, by cognition too. I think sometimes we can sort of find ourselves in thought patterns, right? And the idea of like neural plasticity is such a powerful tool for us to really lock into, that in fact the neurons in the brain are elastic. They can be trained into new pathways of thinking. And I was able, with the support of great therapists and great family, to come back into relationship with the person that I used to be long, long ago, that all of this stuff became second nature. I used to stick money on the walls. I used to draw circles around the eyeballs of all the different photographs in our house. And it came completely naturally to me. And so my rebirth, the Pluto transit over my sun sign, disintegrating some of the calcification of, walls, barriers, whatever that I put up to protect myself, what came through was something quite pure and quite honest. And so I hope for this for you, Aquarius. Now, Pluto won't be in there forever. It'll only be a few months this year. They're going to be retrograding back into Capricorn come July, I think. So we're going to get a taste, potentially as a group, of what Pluto in Aquarius might mean for our generation. And then at the end of next year, it will be back into Aquarius, and it will exist for a span of 20 years. So this is slow moving, and this is not something that you need to worry so much about exactitude. But if you have your birth chart handy, it might be worth just making note of where your sun sign is, what degree of Aquarius, or where your rising sign is, what degree of Aquarius, or your moon. And have a little look at the approach of Pluto. Learn from your experience, learn from the influence of, or the importance of, I should say, the birthright, maybe, your entitlement to a rebirth. Nothing that you've done or you've said is going to lead you to a path of damnation. You can start again. This new moon in Aries at 0 degrees is such an emblem of that. You can start again whenever you want, wherever you're at. Of course, we take accountability for the past and our past behaviors, and if there's reparations that need to be made, we can have those conversations with ourselves, with the other. But no amount of lamentation over the past is going to get in the way of your present moment. Because I've kind of been learning about it a bit. And we could talk about that. We could talk about this. The idea of interdimensionality. I mean, that's kind of up your street, isn't it, Aquarius? We could talk all about that if you wanted. I think that with this growing feeling that there's a lot of us kind of committed to our healing, come hell or high water, we're going to heal ourselves. We're going to take care of our gentle, vulnerable parts. We're going to recognize our behavior patterns too. And when we find ourselves in a period of stress or a period of depression and sadness, we're not going to reprimand ourselves for that. We're going to sit in the moment and recognize that it's happening and develop strategies to work with that. That's why I talk to the planets and to my plants and the tarot cards. If nothing else, if all of this is bullcrap, it's actually, I'm actively practicing mindfulness. You can't argue with that. But you find the mystery in life, Aquarius, and I want you to always use that or have that part of you shine brightly. The way that you problem solve, the way that you inquire, break things apart to put them back together again. I want this to stay with you. I want that inquisitive nature of yours to always be something that you can be wearing with a bit of pride. And the next 20 years they're going to be a wild ride for all of us. We don't know what's going to happen. Pluto in Aquarius, who knows? When none of us were alive, we can only look back to the last time that this happened and recognize the signification of Pluto, power, destruction, rebirth, and the signification of Aquarius, the collective, the people. So, here's your tarot. I got the Queen of Swords, the Hanged One, Queen of Wands, and the Seven of Pentacles. I recognize this Queen of Wands from a reading from before, but let's start with this Queen of Swords. This is the hard word, but not in a, that's quite an Australian term, the hard word. You put the hard word on someone, it means something. This is caustic truth. It comes from love. It comes from investment, but someone's had a really stern talk with you and it's been difficult to ingest. It's been difficult to sort of reconcile in yourself. From their perspective, they've seen what's been going on and they're letting you know what they think. Now, it's up to you to kind of register in your body and in your mind if that's the case. I wouldn't say that this Queen of Swords is lying to you. It's not their style. They don't lie. Their perspective might be altered or different from yours. Their swords, though, so that their air sign relationship, you see eye to eye. You both have that kind of, the brain works in that way. Sort of, let's investigate, let's find the truth. I wonder if this conversation has been a little bit too much for you. It's sort of like, actually, I didn't ask. In any event, it has you in the Hanged One mode. So you remember all that stuff I'd spoke about Pisces and the Hanged One. There's that sort of feeling of like enlightenment maybe, but it's kind of really, there's that Goldfrapp song that says, just let it take you, ooh, the light of steel. You know that song? It's like there's a flow here that you're sort of opening up to. Perhaps the reality of the situation is really presenting itself, that you sort of don't need to do anything or maybe listen so much to others. Perhaps the truth of what this person was saying is now showing up for you and you're like, now I get it. Okay, this is not what I wanted, but I can't really go back on that. I can't really deny that. Here's that Queen of Wands. Here's that seductress. Here's that beautiful, passionate, sensual, wild one in our midst again. And the Seven of Pentacles has us think about cultivation. You can see here that this individual is in the greenhouse. Planting their seeds and they're wondering, they're waiting, they're thinking to themselves, oh gosh, how long is this going to take? Have I done the right thing? Is the soil healthy enough? Is what I'm intending to grow, what I'm trying to grow, going to survive? I'm not sure. So there's sort of like a duality here you can see, can't you? The Queen of Swords, in their truth, has given you their thought on the matter, and you've had to let go of some control. And the Queen of Fire has taken a long time to lay roots, to put things down, to have enough time and space to grow. So when I think about your third house and your your neighborhood. Perhaps here's the clue for you, Aquarius. Maybe at this new moon, you can close your eyes and in virtual reality, have a think about what you'd like your neighborhood to look like. And ask yourself, is it the neighborhood that I'm in now or is it somewhere else? Because these plants are portable. They can be moved around wherever we go. It's the plants that grow from the ground that need some stable rooting, and that's when we achieve real substance, don't we? You want to plant yourself somewhere, Aquarius, and you want to plant yourself so there's room enough to grow. The Seven of Pentacles isn't a defeat, you know, it's just wondering. This Queen of Fire here is still that lure, there's that seduction. Are they a mirage? Or are they, in fact, also telling the truth? But in a different way. They're telling you with their body, their passion, their touch. That's your reading, Aquarius. Let me know how you enjoy the new format. And do spread the word. Send my work out to anybody that you think might respond to it. If you're new here, hi, head over to umaruby.com and you can read my writing, look at my paintings, and if you wanted to, you could book yourself in for a birth chart reading with me. I'm going to see you in 2 weeks for the full moon in Libra, Aquarius. So until then, take care. I love you. And as Goldfrapp says, just let it take you. Ooh, light of steel. Sorry, I've got a cold. That probably sounds awful. Love you. Bye. Hello, Gemini. Welcome to your chapter of the story. So, I want you to think about your community. Now, we can begin this by the circles that you're rolling in, your friendships, the people that make you feel like you're supported and loved and are working towards something, the ones that you kind of interrelate with and grow with together. I also want you to expand that a little bit and have a think about your philosophies on humanity itself. The 11th house, which is where Aries is for you, Gemini, is all about this. This is where we consider humanity, where we consider community, the greater group, the greater collective. So how lovely to have this ignition begin, the 0 degrees of Aries point in that house. I love this for you, Gemini, because things can develop through conversation. You know that to be the truth. And how do we activate? How do we invent? And how do we heal? It's through communication. Aries is, as I said, it's the instigator of the zodiac. It's the one with the match. The one that has the nous, has the confidence to be direct. And so this kind of paints a picture for me as like you're some kind of like community, like, what's the right word? You're like a community leader, or there's something in you that kind of has the boldness or the intelligence enough to be able to lead the group. And that's not in any way sort of like in like a guru sense or, any kind of like, none of this, no hierarchy, don't start a church. However, you have the voice. Geminis are so great at communicating through conversation. So you have you're the mouthpiece for the group. You can recognize what other folks are in need of. Perhaps you've got theories about where we can go, how we can change perhaps some of the modes of operation that aren't working anymore in the human collective. So think about that big glut of planets there too. So it's the lunation, Mercury, Chiron, Jupiter, Vesta. There's an extra emphasis on Aries at this new moon. Lots of planets in there. Maybe on the 13th of March, there was something that came to you. There was some moment of like almost like extra examination or like a zooming in on some sense of healing. Because Jupiter was in a conjunction with Chiron, you know, the wounded healer of the zodiac. So, and Jupiter expands. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps think about it. The 12th or the 13th of this month just gone, March, there was something that came to you and it had something of like a sort of soothing quality to it. Perhaps it was a conversation that you had or an idea, or probably was a conversation that you had, let's face it, Gemini. But something's come up and there's something has opened up for you. There's a new direction, or there's like a refinement to your direction. And so you can use that encouragement to aid your new moon manifestations. Now, I will say that this is a peculiar little configuration. I don't want to put too much, I don't want to confuse it too much. Long story short, new moon on the 22nd of March, then there's a full moon in Libra, then there's a new moon after that, right? But it's actually a solar eclipse, a hybrid solar eclipse in Aries at 29 degrees. The lunar nodes, the dragon's head, the dragon's tail are shifting into Aries and Libra ever so slightly. The node hasn't made it there yet, which is why it's a hybrid eclipse. What I'm saying here is that your manifestations on the 22nd of March might reap or see some results that feel kind of like a deluge. It might be like a sort of insatiable sort of like, whoa, God, whoa, careful what you wish for is what I'm getting at. So on that idea, Gemini, maybe be careful for what you wish for. Although I suspect that all of your wishes and love and warmth sent out for the benefit of humanity are lovely, good, true ones. I believe you, Gemini. I don't think that you're doing something that isn't well considered and well discussed and examined. One more. Excuse me, I was just looking at your tarot. Okay, so let's also talk about this idea of Mars leaving your sign finally as well. It might be a nice little goodbye, the last hurrah. So on the 25th of March, Gemini has been, for the last 7 months, racked with the aggressive tendencies of Mars. So for 7 months, since August, I think, of last year, there's been that energy for you to deal with in your first house if you're a Gemini rising. Perhaps if you're a Gemini moon, then it's been your emotional ecosystem. You've been like sort of swells of, so maybe almost anger coming out, like sort of like frustration or elation, but then, yeah, that sort of topsy-turvy kind of thing. I always like to think of Mars in Gemini as almost like a pinball, you know, like a sort of, you know, those old games, the sort of like, yeah, that's what it feels like. That we can wear. We can say thank you very much for that. Sayonara, Mars. On the 25th, you're going to enter into Cancer and like chill for a minute. So on that, though, the last degrees of the sign are always incredibly critical. It's probably where a lot of the lessons are learned or really rammed home. It's like a last hurrah. So what has Mars in your first house, if you're a Gemini rising? What has Mars in your company, Gemini? What have you come to learn about that? And what strategies have you been able to put in place since August to temper some of that, you know, potential combustion, that sort of, I always think of, you know, like, yeah, like Mars in Gemini, so that's sort of like it's like a combustion oven in some way. So what have you learned about that? And what with this has it taken you this sort of internal battle to kind of rectify yourself and to look out and be like, oh, it's, obviously this is my stuff and my stuff to deal with, and I'm working through this as an individual. On a grander scale, I got to say, my concerns for the group, for humanity, the community, are banking up. So I'm going to use this new moon in Aries. I'm going to take control of this. I'm going to own this, claim my power. It's interesting because Mars rules Aries, you know what I mean? So it's like that might be some of this like last hurrah moment. It's sort of like Mars is like, what did I tell you about confidence? Something like that, We all have the Emperor, as much as we all have the Empress, absolutely, in ourselves. We indeed also have the Emperor. And the Emperor teaches us about the confidence of our convictions, about our autonomy. And so I think how we can translate this to your 11th house of community is the confidence of your convictions, that this is well thought through, and that your act of service or your solutions to perhaps some of these problems that we're facing are coming from good faith. The tarot that I got is the Four of Pentacles and the Emperor. So drink it in. Drink it in, my friend. Aries. Look at that red power suit. Look at that sturdy foundation that they're on. Sure, sometimes they might be giving directions, but we know what we're entering into, the disintegration of power structure. So there's no empire here except for an internal one. There's nothing here about building another top-down structure. No. I was saying all of that stuff as well because the Four of Pentacles it feels like a clamp down. Sometimes it can be beneficial to sort of plant your feet in the ground and weather the storm. And perhaps this storm of Mars, it's sort of like, right, okay, this has been feeling like a bit like a roller coaster. I've been feeling not myself because my temper's been out of control. Or, another way to read this would be that there's like a burning fire in your belly that's been growing, building steam for the past 7 months too. And maybe this exit point is like, it's almost like compressed air canister. It's going to jettison you off into the next phase. The Four of Pentacles it is like stand your ground. Sometimes it can show up as a bit protective, but this, to me, in this particular reading, it's sort of like, we're heading towards this. We need this to come back in you, Gemini, because I can imagine there would be maybe some fraught moments in there for you too. Second guessing, thinking, getting fed up, wanting to throw everything in the bin and flying to, I don't know, Japan. Four of Swords is rest, stop. So, yeah, that's the kind of energy that I'm working with here, is that, it's that Mars, like, come and get me. But rest, think it over. One more time, let it sink in, and then get ready to really work. Because I see you in collaboration, I see you in great company, great relationship with folks that are really on your page, that are really willing to do this thing with you. And yeah, I don't know, there's something, it doesn't have to be so obvious as like community groups or social justice activation, although it could be. There's something here, of a project, there's your eyes on the objective to start making some changes, to start implementing the changes that we've been thinking about or ruminating on or kind of weighing up for a while. You've survived Mars in Gemini for 7 months, honey. That's a master stroke. Mars doesn't ever spend that long in a sign, you know, like it was not unconventional for you to have to put up with that antagonism for so long. But I really want you to kind of like settle into the idea and work with the astrology, as they say, that we can feel the release. We can witness Mars leaving Gemini on the 25th of March, 2 days after this lunation, and feel that release. We also must really hold it in our memory that this Pluto into Aquarius thing, we don't know what's going to happen. The last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, there was the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the land on which I stand, there was invasion. So we can work with these ideas. We can bear witness to the idea that Pluto brings disintegration and that Aquarius is the sign of the people. Pluto brings power to wherever it goes. I would like to think that Pluto in Aquarius is power to the people. So, like, get ready. I have a feeling that whatever it is that you're working on, Gemini, is, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm a huge fan, cheerleader. I think that what you're working on is going to be really, it's going to be really obvious to you just how useful and how important and imperative your training has been. I think we're coming into a time and space where a lot of people are going to need what you've got to offer. And there's probably some adjustment to, you know, there's adjustment with every major change. But yeah, like this Pluto in Aquarius is like, it's an old era ending and a new era beginning. It's a generational shift. It's seismic. And so all of this work that you've been doing to regulate your emotional ecosystem, your temperament, is going to be of great value. So at this new moon in Aries, I want you to open up your heart and your mind to thinking about absolutely your friendship groups and those around you. Also expand that out and think about the human collective and what strategies that you have or that you're working on to implement in order to help and to soothe some of this growing tension. It all exists within you, Gemini. I know it can get so, it feels quite crowded in there sometimes, doesn't it? And that's all right. I get it. Put that chatter to good use for yourself. Make it work for you. Find the strategies to cool it when it gets too much. And if you're, if the internal systems are insisting that you chat it out, then chat it out with them. Talk to them and have them aid your development, aid your ideas, aid your mission statement. That's your reading, Gemini. Sending you a lot of love. If you're leaving me here, then I'll see you in 2 weeks for the full moon in Libra. If you're new here, head over to umaruby.com. You can book a birth chart reading with me. You can read my writing. You can look at my paintings. You can also send me some tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby if you'd like to. Not essential. I'll be speaking to you soon. I love you. Bye, Gemini. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so I sound... I've got some sexy phlegm going on. Bye.